What if one contract completely changed the NHL offseason? That's exactly what's happening right now. A single offer sheet has pushed the Anaheim Ducks into one of the toughest salary cap situations in the league, and the ripple effects could impact future stars for years to come. The biggest story isn't just Leo Carlsson signing a massive offer sheet. It's how the Ducks allowed the situation to reach this point. Earlier contract decisions and delayed negotiations have now created a financial puzzle that could cost them far more than expected. After extending Pavel Mintyukov, Anaheim suddenly found itself with very little cap space. At the same time, Cutter Gauthier is due for a new contract after an outstanding season. When another young star receives a record-breaking deal, every player in a similar position naturally expects a significant raise. From Leo Carlsson's perspective, accepting the offer sheet was an easy decision. At only 21 years old, very few players would walk away from guaranteed superstar money. If the Ducks truly wanted to keep him, matching the contract was always their responsibility, not his. Many fans have criticized Carlsson, but it's difficult to blame a player for protecting his future. The real question is whether Anaheim's front office waited too long to negotiate and ultimately lost control of the process. Now the Ducks face an impossible choice: match the contract and struggle with the salary cap, or let one of the league's brightest young stars leave in exchange for draft picks. Neither option feels like a true victory. Some believe 4 first-round picks are enough compensation. On paper, that sounds incredible, but elite franchise centers like Leo Carlsson rarely become available. Even 4 late first-round selections may never produce another player of his caliber. This situation also sends a powerful message across the NHL. General managers everywhere are watching closely. If this strategy succeeds, future restricted free agents may have far more leverage during contract negotiations than ever before, and this might only be the beginning. Young stars around the league and their agents will almost certainly use this contract as a benchmark when discussing their own extensions. The Ducks now have only a short window to make one of the most important decisions in franchise history. Whatever happens next won't just affect Anaheim. It could reshape contract negotiations across the entire NHL. But Anaheim isn't the only team making headlines this offseason. Across the NHL, blockbuster trades, controversial signings, and bold front office decisions have completely changed the landscape heading into next season. One of the biggest surprises came from Buffalo. Their moves may not have generated the same attention as the Leo Carlsson story, but they quietly strengthened their roster while maintaining valuable salary cap flexibility. Sometimes the smartest offseason isn't the loudest one, it's the one that builds long-term success. On the other hand, the Washington Capitals have positioned themselves as one of the biggest winners of the summer. Their additions have improved both their depth and overall balance, giving them a legitimate chance to compete near the top of the Eastern Conference once again. Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Jets still face serious questions. Their biggest concern remains forward depth. If they want to become true playoff contenders, they'll likely need either a major trade or significant development from their younger players. Standing still simply won't be enough in an increasingly competitive Western Conference. The Pittsburgh Penguins find themselves in a completely different situation. Their veteran core still has enough talent to compete, but the organization is also trying to prepare for the future. Balancing those two goals is never easy, and every move they make over the next year will shape the franchise for seasons to come. Another team drawing attention is the San Jose Sharks. While their rebuild continues to move in the right direction, some recent veteran acquisitions have raised important questions. Experienced players certainly provide leadership, but committing significant salary cap space to aging defensemen could eventually limit the team's flexibility when their young stars begin signing expensive contracts. Perhaps the biggest lesson from this offseason is just how quickly the NHL can change. One aggressive move by a general manager can completely reshape another team's future overnight. Salary cap space that once seemed comfortable can disappear in a matter of days, leaving organizations scrambling for solutions. This is exactly why today's NHL is more unpredictable than ever. Teams that hesitate during contract negotiations risk losing leverage, while those willing to act aggressively may completely alter the balance of power across the league. As training camp gets closer, every hockey fan will be watching to see how these decisions play out. Will the Ducks find a way out of their salary cap nightmare, can Washington prove they're true contenders? And which offseason gamble will ultimately pay off when the regular season begins? One thing is certain. This offseason has already changed the NHL in ways that could be felt for years to come. As the offseason continues, one question keeps growing louder across the hockey world. Which teams actually improved enough to compete for the Stanley Cup? And which organizations simply spent money without solving their biggest problems? Championship windows in the NHL are incredibly fragile. A team can spend years building the perfect roster, only to watch it fall apart because of one bad contract or one unexpected salary cap decision. That's why every signing carries far more weight than most fans realize. For contenders, depth often separates champions from everyone else. Superstars may dominate the headlines, but history has repeatedly shown that playoff success depends on contributions from every line. Teams that carefully manage both talent and cap space usually give themselves the best chance when the postseason arrives. Young players will also play a massive role next season. Across the league, rising stars are expected to take major steps forward, and their development could completely change the direction of several franchises. Sometimes the biggest offseason addition isn't a free agent at all. It's a young player finally reaching his full potential. General managers know this better than anyone. Every contract signed today is really an investment in the future. Overpay one player, and the entire roster can become difficult to manage. Negotiate wisely, however, and a franchise can remain competitive for years without sacrificing its long-term vision. The pressure on front offices has never been greater. Fans expect immediate success, ownership wants playoff revenue, and players deserve contracts that reflect their value. Finding the right balance between those competing priorities is one of the hardest jobs in professional sports. Looking ahead, the trade deadline could become even more dramatic than usual. Teams that struggle early may decide to move expensive veterans, while contenders could sacrifice future draft picks in pursuit of one final piece for a championship run. Every decision made now will influence those conversations later in the season. For Anaheim, the coming weeks may define the future of the organization. Whether they match the contract or choose to accept compensation, the consequences will be felt for years. Other teams are watching closely because the outcome could change how restricted free agents negotiate across the entire league. And that's what makes this offseason so fascinating. It's about much more than individual contracts or headline-making trades. It's about the shifting strategies of NHL front offices, the growing influence of elite young talent, and the constant challenge of building a championship team under the salary cap. As the regular season approaches, expectations will only continue to rise. Every prediction, every bold move, and every controversial contract will eventually be tested where it matters most, on the ice. Until then, fans across the hockey world can only wait and see which organizations made the right decisions, and which ones will spend the next few years regretting the choices they made this summer.